Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Ignite Your Creative Power Masterclass series, where we are discovering how to get unstuck, how to expand our vision, and how to live our greater potential. I am your host, Birgit Langhammer, and today we are going to talk about creativity in connection with dance and movement because of our guest, and I'm really excited to have her here today. Her name is Cera Byer, and she is a choreographer and dance artist with more than 20 years of experience. She is from Los Angeles, where she is teaching Pilates and dance at the California State University, right? And you are also creating choreography and videos, and she also runs a successful artist coaching business and is a member of the Rockstars Dance Hall crew. So welcome, Cera. Nice to have you here today.
Yeah.
Could you hear me, Cera, or are there some problems?
I can. There are little moments where you freeze, but then it catches up.
Okay. So,
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. It's good. So let me know if there is any more problems or something. Okay. So welcome, Cera. I was just welcoming you to our masterclass series. And I introduced you. And so
thank you for having me.
Yes, you're so wonderful to have you here. So it's really interesting for us to look at creativity from your perspective. And I know that you have coached many movement artists all over the world, and you have also studied those world dance forms and created a lot of dances for stages and films. So is there any story you could tell us about one of those times?
Oh goodness! I think I need more context for the question because there's so many. What kind of story?
Okay. For example, if I'm interested in the world dance forms, what is it about that? What do you bring back to your own work? What do you bring back to your to the people you're coaching? What is it about this which you have found in other forms of dances which has inspired you or inspired one of your clients?
Yeah. I guess as it pertains to different dance forms from around the world, I can say that I started dancing at a very young age. I was 4 years old when I started taking dance classes, and I just started with jazz, tap, and ballet, like the normal things that you start with when you get stuck in dance when you're a kid. And as I continued dancing, that expanded, and I got interested in street dance forms and hip hop just because of dancing with my friends in the Bay Area, which is where I'm from. And I, in college, became interested in cultural anthropology. Mm-hmm. And I started studying cultural anthropology, and I had a mentor teacher who was like, well, there's an entire field of cultural anthropology as it relates to dance and music, and I didn't know that I could merge those things. And then I found the work of Catherine Dunham, who was a pioneering dance anthropologist in the 1930s, and her technique and her methodology, and I started studying her work. I had an opportunity to train with her before she passed away. And her work was profound and is still used and undercredited in dance classes around the world. But she traveled to Trinidad, Tobago, Haiti, Brazil, to Africa, and studied dances and cataloged them. And she was studying dances in ritual contexts and social contexts. And that was very interesting to me. So I started traveling to study dance, both religious dances and social dances, and how dance shows up around the world in different social rituals and celebrations and worship, and how fundamental dance has been for most of human history to how we just express being human. And in Western society, I think, I know for sure in America, dance has become something that's kind of relegated to professionals in a lot of cases. There's this idea that you have to be a good dancer to dance in public, and that the only way to be a good dancer is that you're born with it. And my understanding of dance is, first of all, that it's an inborn human skill that we all possess. And secondly, that it's a right in your body. It's part of how we express our humanity, and it's part of how we celebrate our physicality as people. So bringing that spirit back to my work, that dancing is, first of all, divinely human, and second of all, a birthright of all human bodies. And then also using that as a form of advocacy for body positivity, and for the idea that any body, no matter its age, shape, ability level, color, position, that you can always move and you can always celebrate to music. And so I think that that's what those studies have brought back into my work.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, and it's really a good point. How far do we have to be a professional, right, to live our creativity? Or is it, as you say, a birthright? And that is so true, not just for dance, but I think also for singing, you know, for writing, for everything. So I think that's a really beautiful point you're making there. And another thing I hear you saying is how far we incorporate these creative outlets in our lives, and how much are they maybe a ritual or not, because that would be a beautiful thing to make them a ritual in our life, no matter you know how good we are, just for the joy of it. Yeah, and so we take this away from ourselves, which is not really good. So
Absolutely. I mean, I know people who won't even dance by themselves at home because they don't think they're good dancers. I'm like, you're by yourself in your house. Who cares? But I think that the pressure, first of all, that in order to create something, it must be judged as good or worthy to others. My dog. Okay. That you can't just move for the hey that you can't just move for the joy of moving, and you can't just create for the joy of creating. That it has to be commercially viable in some, like you have sorry, I'm leaving this viable in some way, that it has to be something that other people appreciate or something you can sell, as opposed to, you know, like we were saying before, that your expression of your creativity belongs to you and isn't for anyone else. And even if no one ever sees it, ever, you should still do it because it's in you to do.
Yes, but we are not really taught this or told this, and not many people around us live this when we are little, so that we can feel it's a normal part of our life. Those creators outlets. Very true.
And you know, I blame television.
How come?
That sounds funny, but when you think about it, there was a time that everyone played an always had instruments in your home, and people danced together, and going to a dance was a normal social activity, and that people read aloud and read plays to each other and painted. Like, we had more creative hobbies when we didn't have passive entertainment before television. So for most of human history, if you wanted entertainment, you had to create it. And then we started having recorded music and recorded media, and that started separating out this idea that only professionals should play, that you listen to a record of a professional, you don't play music at home with your family. you go to a show and watch professionals dance. You don't dance with your friends at a social, so I think that really passive entertainment really started separating out the idea of adult creativity as enjoyment. Because kids still do it. We still encourage kids to color. We still encourage kids to play. And then you hit a certain age where you're supposed to just consume everything and not produce anything for entertainment.
Yeah, and it also goes into internet and games on the internet. How many young people and even older ones are kind of addicted to it, right? And
absolutely.
I was just recently talking this about with someone and with a young man, and I was saying, in some way, it's like you're living a fake life. You're not living your true life, Yeah. So yeah.
And you can lose hours and hours and hours and just and look up and be like, what did I do? I mean, I do it. I'm not saying I never watch TV. There will definitely be days that I will put on a show on Netflix, and the next thing I know, it's dark outside, and I lost 8 hours because I got sucked in. And I think there's a place for that too. But when you think back to most of human history, we didn't have passive entertainment. You had to entertain yourself by making things.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Yeah. How beautiful would it be to kind of be able to enliven this again? Yeah. To have a renaissance of those kind of things going on in our life.
Yes, let's bring back the living room salon.
Yes, exactly. I was thinking about this, like the literature salons and the music. It would be gorgeous. Yes. Okay. Cera, maybe another topic. When we were talking previously, we talked about something which was how people get stuck, because you're not only an artist, but you're also coaching artists who have started their own business. Yeah. And you said they're getting stuck, and it was very interesting. What you explained about it, what you said about it. Could you kind of talk to this a little bit?
Yeah, I don't remember what I said last time, but I can say that when I started, I was coaching dancers because I'm a dancer. And then I started talking to other people and working with other people and just realizing that the struggles of making and then selling are kind of universal no matter what you're making. They're about self-worth. They're about exposure and visibility. They're about judgment. They're about self-esteem. They're about self-sabotage. And I think that everybody, no matter what kind of art you do, I've found that people struggle in really similar ways over and over and over again. And again, going back to that idea that now we have a professional class of artists, right? And that professional class is a very high bar. So if you're not a movie star, you can't be an actor. But there are dozens and dozens of working actors who are in commercials, in background on TV. Like, there are people working and actors who are never movie stars who make their living acting. But kind of, we're told from the time we're little, it's not a real job. It's self-indulgent to want to do it as a job. Who do you think you are to want to do something like that? What if you put yourself out there and it turns out you're not good at it and everyone laughs at you? And so all of these different things can make us want to retract. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's like that part of the problem with having a culture that kind of deifies celebrity, but at the same time vilifies the working artist's path as being self-indulgent. You're like, how do you think that celebrity got there? They worked for years and years and years while everyone told them this is not a real job, you should quit and go back to doing something else until they made some breakthrough. But I think everyone struggles with that, with feeling like, oh, there's all these people up here and I'm just down here. And how do I bridge that gap? Or how do I reconcile myself to the idea there's a career down here. I don't even have to be a George Clooney to be a successful artist. I don't have I don't have to write a New York Times bestseller to be a successful writer. Obviously, those things might be lovely, but there are so many paths for everyone to be successful, even if they never reach that superstar level.
And they might be much more fulfilled and happy in their way and on their path. And because they might understand that it is what we said before, their human right to express themselves in whatever way they feel. And this, I think this is what makes us human. Our creativity is such a beautiful gift, and we should live it in one way or another, and maybe not with a high hierarchy. So that would be beautiful. Yes. Okay. And last time we talked, it was about it was like, when people start something, let's say our audience, they want to do something, they have a project forever.
Oh no, you're frozen. Can you repeat that?
Yes, they, like in our audience, for example, let's say they have a project in mind, something they want to bring about. And however, when they look at it, they think like, how will this work out? This will never work out. And then the brain starts kicking in the mind, and they start like, oh my goodness, this is so much and it's too much, and I'm not there yet, and I first need to do something else, or I have to have money. So, and then you said something, how you can switch this around. Yeah. Cera, do you remember?
And I think some of that is individual.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, you froze again for a second.
It's okay.
I think that some of how you switch is individual. And as I work with people one-on-one, it's really figuring out why you spiral, right? Because those spirals are about certain triggers, and those triggers are personal.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the first thing would be to pause, to close your eyes, to do some deep breathing. And the first thing I encourage people to do is check in with where you're feeling that anxiety in your body. So where you're feeling it sometimes can give you some clues about what you're feeling and what the sensation feels like. So for instance, if when you start thinking about doing your work, you start to feel tightness and constriction in your chest, that's heart chakra work. Your heart chakra is about authenticity and about bridging the gap between your self-confidence, your solar plexus, and speaking your truth and living your truth. And some of that is also about forgiveness and unconditional love, right? That's what our heart chakra is about. So if you're feeling tightness and constriction in your chest, the questions that I would ask are about fearing judgment, right? That if it's about unconditional love, then what you need to offer yourself is, if we make this thing and it's terrible, I'm still going to love me. I'm still going to value me. I'm still going to love my art. I'm still going to make my art. I'm safe with me. And can you start to work a way around feeling that constriction, right? Because if you're feeling terrified that this will never work out and it will never be successful, that's a fear of judgment and a fear of failure, which means you're putting all of whether or not you feel happy or proud of yourself onto other people. So can you take that back? Can you reassure yourself like a loving parent that you're going to unconditionally love and support yourself, even if your work is a total flop?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be there for you? Right? So going into the body for me is a lot about where I draw these, like, how do we feel what's happening? When you feel tightness in your throat, right? Again, about speaking your truth. Are you being authentic? Is this really what you want to say? Are you afraid to say it because you're afraid that saying it will harm someone in your family, hurt someone's feelings? Right? If it's a root chakra thing, like this is about safety and security in the world, feeling scarcity or lack of abundance, or that you're going to starve to death, right? So a lot of work that I do with people is about where do we feel these things in our body, because frequently they show up in our body in the same way over and over, and we ignore them. We ignore those signals.
Yes. Yeah, we push through, right? We look over it and we it doesn't matter. It's not bad enough yet to pay attention. Yeah.
Or that we're taught that our body signals are not trustworthy, right?
Yes.
Because the seat of our identity is our mind and our logic. So if you logically know that it's okay, then you beat yourself up for feeling differently. But your feeling reality and your logic don't always jive, and that's an alignment problem. So sometimes you have to go into your feeling reality in order to sort that out and get it on board with your logic.
And this is another good point for artists and for creativity. How much is something, how are we open emotionally? And another point is, how skillful are we, and how do these two go together, right? So, for example, in dance, I guess about technique and about expression, emotional expression. So these are also two things which are interesting, how they sometimes not come together, not really balanced, I would say.
Absolutely. And I think that that's true in all art forms. You will find these technical masters who can paint you like the most exact replica of a building or a street scene, but it doesn't make you feel anything. Or somebody can be a really great writer technically. They're grammatically perfect. Their spelling is perfect. Their punctuation is impeccable. Everything makes sense, but it doesn't stir you. And it happens with actors. I think in every field, you will find people who are technically masterful, but they're not bringing themselves to the material. And as a viewer, you can feel the difference between someone who's really authentic and someone who's not. Someone who is maybe not the most skilled, but is incredibly authentic and passionate, has the potential to move an audience far more than someone who is technically masterful, but guarded and not revealing anything of themselves. Because people come to art to be moved. Like that's our task. I feel our task as artists is to feel things and process things really deeply so that other people can have a way in. They look to us to lead that way, to show that vulnerability, to open ourselves up so that they can be moved, right? We go to movies to be moved, to feel things. We go to plays to be moved and to feel things. We listen to music to be moved and to feel things. So if you are not bringing that to your performance, the audience can't have that experience, and you can't provide them something transformative. You have to provide yourself something transformative and let them come along.
Yes, and you have to trust that you have to just hand it over in some way, right? So if you say too guarded, this is a thing where we maybe cut ourselves off when we guard ourselves too much from whatever creative flow is coming through us. And so being courageous enough or willing enough to let it flow through you without trying to control everything is really a big kind of point in being creative and expressing yourself creatively.
Yeah. And that surrender, right? That's so important. And I think that something that helps me is understanding that this is a lifelong pursuit. Your next project or your current project, hopefully, is not your last one. So in a lifetime of making things, you're going to have some things that are really great and some things that are mediocre and some things that are probably bad. And that's okay, because the goal is to keep making things. And that if you put so much pressure on the product, that each product has to, on its own, stand out and be fantastic, that's way too much pressure. If you place your goal on the process, my goal is to keep making things, to keep dutifully showing up and serving my muse for my whole life. And what I make is almost inconsequential. Some people will like it, some people won't. Sometimes it will be popular, sometimes it won't. But I'm dedicated to the process of making. And once you put yourself back there, it takes a lot of the pressure off for everything you make to be great. I think that that's a big part of where people start to spiral, is they start to think about like the finished product and how that will be received. You got to kind of keep putting yourself squarely back on the path of like, it's almost not, it's what other people think about me isn't my business, right? It doesn't matter what people think of the finished product. I have to just keep making stuff every day.
That is so beautiful said. Oh, I love this so much, Cera, because, you know.
Mikhail Baryshnikov talked about how no matter what, no matter if you're the most famous ballet dancer in the whole world or a very beginning student, you start every day at the bar with pliés. Every single day, ballet dancers, you danced Swan Lake last night for the Royal. In the morning, get up, go to class, and you start the day at the bar with pliés. That honoring the work is what you do after your biggest triumph or your biggest failure. You just show up and do the work.
Yes, and as you just said it, showing up for your own muse, for your own, that was so beautiful. So I just almost want to leave it with this, because it was just really, really beautifully put and spoken from the heart. So I love that. Cera, do you have a free gift for our audience?
I do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm offering a free 20-minute consultation to anybody. So if you want to write to me, reach out to me, there's a link and you can go sign up. We'll set a time and we can have a video chat. And whatever it is that you're working on, mulling over, if you had thoughts from this talk that you wanted to talk with me about, or there's something going on in your work or a way that you feel stuck, I would be happy to talk with you.
That sounds beautiful. That is wonderful. And yes, we have a link on the website, so it's available. Okay, so everyone, you were just hanging out with Cera Byer and with Birgit Langhammer. And thank you so much for joining us in our Ignite Your Creative Power Masterclass series. So it was very nice having you here, Cera. And I see you next time. And till then, stay connected, stay curious, and create big. Bye, everybody.
Bye.